Yes, he could feel their hot breath. Good morning. I had a little internet trouble here at the house this morning, but it is back and I'm here. And what a morning. It's actually a chilly morning. I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning and couldn't get back to sleep, mostly because, well, we know what goes on when I can't sleep. So that's just what happens. Oh, this stuff is ugly, ugly, ugly. It's going to be a little bit on the ranty side, I do believe, today. Okay, so we'll just take a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time here, one story at a time. First story I want to take a look at here, and this could go a couple of different ways. Okay, a Christian accountant fired after refusing to attend LGBTQ training, and he lost the lawsuit. Morning, Raman. Morning, Sean. How y'all doing today? And he lost it. He lost the lawsuit, and this surprises me. And the reason why it surprises me that he lost the suit is because they're so um, common here that when it comes to religion, people don't, and the practice thereof, people don't usually lose their lawsuits on that. But they did, but this guy did. So let's take a look at this. A federal court ruled against a former accountant, rejecting his lawsuit, arguing he was fired by a New York school district for refusing attending a mandatory LGBTQ workplace training. Raymond Zudunsky, a former accountant at the Erie to Chautauqua Crockett Chorus, okay, Board of Cooperative Education Services, filed a lawsuit against the district in 2019 after being fired for objecting to an LGBTQ workplace diversity training they believed went against his religious beliefs. Manhattan Second Court of Appeals rejected his claims and ruled he failed to point to significant evidence. He failed to point to significant evidence favoring him that would allow a jury to return a verdict on any of his claims. New York is a liberal state. Judges were voted in or appointed by liberals. I'm sure the judges want to keep their jobs. That's what Zadunsky is saying as to why he lost. Well, Raman, okay, but if this had been a Muslim refusing to attend the training, or a Sikh, or a Hindu refusing to attend this training, telling him that he had to accept LGBTQ people into his workplace, yada yada yada. And do you think that they would have fired him? Okay, Sean. Yeah, well, they probably would have fired him for that because then, you know, uh, preaching the gospel is the the gospel of the Holy Bible on school property is illegal in New York. So they would, that's not the kind of diversity that New York is famous for. New York and California, the liberals don't like that kind of diversity. Zadunsky claimed that the E2 BBC launched a mandatory workplace training with the local Pride Center regarding LGBTQ issues in 2018. He requested a religious exemption because it forced him to listen to indoctrination that is in contradiction to the tenets of his faith. The system refused to provide an exception and fired him after he missed 2 trainings, citing failure to comply with mandatory workplace training. Okay, yeah, Sean. Well, okay. I wonder if he would have attended, but with uh, a headset on and had the headset playing something else to where he could not hear this mandatory training. He attended it, but used the headsets to block it out. Yeah, now that would have been a way to go. I think that'd been a smarter way to do it. They probably threatened him after the first time he refused to attend. So, I mean, God knows I've been to enough meetings and mandatory training to where when it was all over and done with, it was like, oh, okay, what did they talk about? Because I tuned them out. I was wearing my subtle forms of Bluetooth, ones that really can't be seen underneath my hair and sideburns. And I was listening to other stuff. But the fact is, they fired him for a failure to attend these 2 classes after he requested a religious exemption. Um, I'm wondering if he's planning on taking this up. I mean, this was state level. I'm wondering if he was going to take it up to the next level. So, a lawyer is evidently, believes it's a clear violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And yes, they are planning to appeal to the state Supreme Court. So this is going to be interesting to see how this turns out. And so that'd be an interesting case to take a look at. Um, a case like this, though, if I'd been threatened with being fired after not attending the first time, it's simple. Okay, fine. I will attend your meeting, but I will not be listening to a cotton picking word that's being said. Oh, Raman, I sent you a link in chat and DM'd you just in case you want it. But yeah, these schools are getting more and more and more they're getting a little bit weirder. They really are. Much like and we're going to be talking a lot about different schools going on, stuff that's going on in different schools. Even colleges. Wesley College, their students vote to admit trans men and non-binary applicants. Students at Wellesley College. And Wellesley is an all-female school. There are no men in the school. Well, there weren't. But the students there are saying they want to expand the eligibility to non-binary and transgender. So, you want to wear female clothes and just say you're trans, or wear your regular clothes, just say you're non-binary, and yeah, you can attend this school with all them women. You're right. Trans are going to take it over. The student body approved the referendum, which asked whether the school should shift its admission policy to allow non-binary men who were assigned male at birth and trans men. So they want a lot of penis at their school, is what it's coming down to. They just don't want to admit men. They don't want real men. They want trans men and men who say they're not men. So good morning, dear.
Good morning.
Shuffle past me like that.
We were busy.
Well, that's beside the point. Oh, now that I can handle. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that you're not busy.
All right.
Are.
Anyway, the spokesman said in an emailed statement there are no plans to change the admission policy as a result of the elections. Wesley College acknowledged the results of the non-binary binding. God, every time I see the word non and a B, I automatically think non-binary anymore. Of the non-binding student ballot initiative. Although there's no plan to revisit its mission as a women's college or its admissions policy, the college will continue to engage all students, including transgender, male, and non-binary, in the important work of building an inclusive academic community where everybody feels they belong. Wellesley College is an all-woman higher education institution that has produced notable alumni, including Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright. Its current application policy states that trans men cannot apply to the school, but trans women and those who are born female and identify as non-binary. So, the lack of a penis can still get you into the school, regardless of how you dress or identify. But the students want penis there as long as it doesn't belong to somebody who says they're a manly man. Yes, just absolutely lovely. Now, I forgot to look, because, you know, is there still such thing as an all male college? Colleges in the U.S. Okay, there are only four such there. While male colleges used to be plentiful, there are only four left: Hampden, Sydney, Morehouse, St. John's University, and Wabash College. Interest, interesting. That's I don't think I've heard of any of them, but yeah, I don't. Well, Morehouse, I thought that was HBC, but anyway. So out there, as long as there, well, Wellesley's going to soon be accepting. How long? I don't give it many. I don't give it but 2 years. They'll start saying they'll accept non-binary and trans men or trans women, whichever. Start accepting the penis that dresses up as a female. I expect that to happen within 2 years. And let's see. What else do we have going on here? We talked about Jane Fonda yesterday, and Capitol Police are hot on her trail. They're trying to search her down. They're going to be doing that 4 a.m. raid on her house because, she's incited riots again, incited for somebody to murder anybody who disagrees with her on abortion. Greta Thunberg, she's out there deleting old posts of hers. She's trying to purge her record of things that she said that just isn't coming true. I'm going to skip into before we get back into the school stuff. I'm going to break it up a little bit because because I can. How's that sound? Throw a little something else up there on occasion, like and I now granted I haven't watched much news the past 48 hours because I had the grandson here and everything else all day. Was that Tuesday or yesterday? Yeah, it was Tuesday. Had the grandson here all day Tuesday. Oh, that's right. Yesterday was Nursey Day. Anyway, um, the House Republicans win access to Biden's foreign banking documents. The House Republicans will soon receive access to Biden's foreign banking documents. Comer made the announcement during a televised appearance with Sean Hannity Monday night. Comer said his committee has come to an agreement with the Treasury Department to allow access to documents relating to Biden and his family, including Hunter. Old Joe and the Democrats are PO'd about that. News of the agreement came hours after Comer's oversight committee subpoenaed more bank records from Bank of America. The subpoenas targeted all financial records from 3 of Hunter Biden's business associates from 2009 until present. Yeah, there will be no white on those documents. I wouldn't doubt that. The Oversight Committee subpoenaed and obtained financial records relating to his influence peddling. These documents solidify our understanding of several areas of concern and have now opened up new avenues of investigation about the Biden family's business schemes. But that wasn't all that these documents did. As after that story came out, where the records were getting there, Comer revealed a new Biden family member has emerged as a result of them. And they didn't say who it was. The Republican detailed long anticipated the financial records which Treasury Department gave access to indicate Biden family received a $3 million payment from individuals tied to the Chinese Communist Party shortly after Biden's tenure as vice president concluded. There are 3 different Biden family members that received a cut from $3 million, including a new Biden family member that's never been included in any of these investigations. So, we got Hunter, we got Joe, of course, we got Joe's brother. So is it one of the 2 wives? Or is it Jill? Hey, Badger, good morning. Good morning, Becca. So here is now, who is it? Who is this third person? I mean, it's got to be it's got to be one of the women, one of the wives, because there's what, three or four wives, well, three wives. So got Hunter's first wife. Then we have Hunter's second wife, which was Bo's wife. Then we got Jill Biden. So, and my money probably be on Jill. Yeah, my money would be on Jill. Be it. Yeah, no, I don't think the daughter, Sean. I don't. How old's the? Okay, yeah, the one that Joe touched in the showers. The one Joe was taking showers with. Yeah, maybe to shut her up. A little bit of hush money spread there towards the daughter. I forgot about her, Sean. So yeah, it may be the daughter there to shut her up. The Treasury allowed the release of the suspicious activity reports on Tuesday, which served in part as the basis for the GOP probe into the president's son's foreign transactions. The SARS reportedly involved funding from China and other foreign nations. Sources familiar with the investigation, not matter. Comer requested the documents a few weeks ago after accusing the Treasury of obstructing his probe. The department finally complied with the request. Well, of course, the Treasury was obstructing the probe, not releasing the documents. I mean, they work for Biden. Okay, Sean, you may, granddaughter. Okay, I mean, possibility. My money still lies on Jill. My money still lies on Jill is the missing third is the unnamed third person, because she's just devious enough to say, I want my own cut that I don't have to rely on getting it from the big boy. I don't want to have him remember to give me my money. I'm not going to disclose that new name because that really changes things, because what we assumed was that this was just the president's son and two brothers. But now there's a new name that's emerged. So we got a problem here with respect to trying to determine what exactly this family was doing to receive these transactions from China. This is important, and I think every American should be concerned about this issue of national security. But Comer noted there's a significant question that remains unanswered despite the release, is what did the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party linked individuals, got in exchange for the massive payments? This is an investigation of Joe Biden, and we're investigating the Biden family again after this new batch of information. It expands. There are more family members involved in this than just the president's son. What they've said to the media and in public is this is for business. However, it appears it went into the personal accounts. So if China's investing with the Bidens in a business, we can't find any business. They don't manufacture anything. They don't sell anything. They don't own any real estate. We don't know what the business is. Well, we already know that Joe's done influence peddling, and that Hunter. Oh boy, that does look a lot better, dear.
I'll come and get the fan in a minute.
Okay.
But I wanted to feel like what it takes. Yeah, my face does look better.
Yeah, looks a lot better. Uh, we all know Joe was doing it. Hunter was invoking Daddy's name a lot to get business, and Daddy was doing everything he could to protect Joe or Hunter. So yeah, there's everything they accuse Trump of doing. Everything they accuse Trump of doing, it appears the Biden family was doing. And if you think the Democrats and such did not know that was happening, I got some land down in South Florida that is perfect for you. But oh, Jamie Raskin, okay, that one of the worst people in the House of Representatives. He's got his own point of view on these subpoenas. Remember, now there was no subpoena that wasn't broad enough when Raskin wanted it to investigate Trump, even to the point that they got the FBI to lie to the FISA courts to get subpoenas. But old Raskin is, Meanwhile, Comer's received scrutiny from ranking member Jamie Raskin for subpoenaing the bank records, accusing him of acting on behalf of former President Trump. I fear this wildly overbroad subpoena suggests your interest in this investigation is not pursuing to find facts or informing public legislation, but conducting a dragnet of political opposition research on behalf of the former President Trump. And of course, Comer shoots back that he wants an apology from Raskin for making that accusation because, of course, he hasn't even talked to Trump. These are I, I'm sort of torn on these investigations, though. I really am. Is if Biden and his family are corrupt, and in my heart of hearts, I believe they are. Uh, that I don't think there's too many politicians all the way up and down the food chain that aren't corrupt in one way, shape, or form. I don't care, from Cruz, and I don't care who they are. Ted Cruz, has he done some corrupt things? Yes. You know, have any of them done corrupt things? Every single one of them. They've all sold their vote for something, for a campaign speech, for an endorsement, for a donation. They've all sold a vote for something. They've all pushed legislation through. They've all pushed a point or something to gain favor with someone. I will, you know, they want this guy's endorsement, so they do something to help this guy or gal out. So I'm not going to doubt that there isn't a tinge of corruption with any of them. I just believe Joe Biden and his family are more corrupt than anyone else. They're in not more corrupt than anyone else, but they are in the upper crust of the corruptness. And of course, Hunter and Joe are the first father son duel to be under federal investigation separately, but at the same time. And I'm assuming they're talking about, uh, as president or vice president, as elected officials. Uh, and of course, we can't forget that Biden is also under investigation for mishandling classified material. Again, that's something that now the difference between him and Trump as president has authority to declassify anything that he wants declassified at any time. Biden wouldn't, until he became president, he didn't have any of that. He didn't have that authority. And we all know that he had mishandled classified information since he was no longer vice president since January of 2020. Or no, 2017. I'm sorry. Since January 2017 until he was sworn into office in 2020, he had mishandled classified information. So, yeah, Joe, you've got no room to talk here. And let's see here. What's next here that I want to bring up? Like I said, this is just a bunch of smaller stuff. And a lot of it's going to be dealing with the schools. Okay, there's that one. So where's the other story that I was talking about? Where is it? Come on. Here's a fresh story. You're homeschooling. That's good. I mean, I'm a believer that homeschooling should be done when it can be done correctly. All right. When the kids are being properly taught, I believe in it. Hey, Neil, good morning. And how you doing today? Oh, Sean, you're right. Joe will never be. The dementia charges will take care of Joe. I mean, his dementia will be in there, and yeah, that's. We already know he's got dementia. His sundowners is bad.
I'm gonna do some laundry this morning.
All right.
Where's my clothes this morning?
Okay. The Biden administration is placing undercover federal agents in universities. The Enforcement Office of the Student Aid, Federal Student Aid, FSA, will use undercover officials to monitor colleges and universities for misleading or predatory practices. The officials will identify any misrepresentations and several factors advertised to the students, including transferability of credits, job placement rates, completion and withdrawal rates, graduates' future earning potential, career services, cost of attendance, the amount of federal aid, and accreditation status. Now, I think they're missing the mark here on some things, though. All right. I'll be honest. I think they're missing the mark. And if this is what they're truly doing, this is actually something I'd like to see them doing. I like this. This is a good thing. but I don't see how it requires putting federal agents in undercover. Unless what they're doing is they're finding that what representatives of the school are saying is different from what they have in their printed paperwork, their printed brochures and such. All right. I mean, it's much like when I joined the Air Force. Okay. What the recruiter told me was if you spend 20 years, you get free health for the rest of your life, health care. If you retire from the military after 20 years, you and your wife, your spouse, will have totally free health care for the rest of your life. That was told to me in 1978. That was a lie. Because even before 1978, Congress had already passed a law requiring co-pays and insurance payments by retirees. Now, the ones who retired, who there were a bunch of people that were grandfathered in under the old policies, they still didn't have to pay. But the people who came in and around my time had to pay. I had money taken out of my retirement check every month to cover my dental insurance and my health insurance. So what they say versus what is in the uh, printed brochures, if they're misleading the students, then I could see them needing to go undercover perhaps for that. Transferability of credits. I don't see why they got to go undercover for that. Job placement rates, again, is what they're saying versus what is actually happening or what's put into their printed documentation. Completion and withdrawal rates. Now, this here is an issue, particularly for the DEI and we want to make certain we have so many women students. We want to make certain we have so many Black, Hispanic. We want to make certain we have this number of trans, this number of non-binary, yada yada yada. You know, and regardless of whether or not the kids are actually able to complete the courses. That's exactly where I was going, Sean. They should be going after these DEI and equity things because if they're bringing in kids that aren't prepared, but they're still bringing them in just to have the numbers, then the kids aren't completing and they're having to withdraw from the school. But they could look at that again just from the graduation rates. How many kids were in the freshman class? How many kids graduated 4 years later? Did little Tyrone graduate? Did Jose graduate? Did Juanita and Taquilla graduate? And if they did graduate, what kind of grades did they have? Did they graduate with gentlemen C's? Nobody, nobody flunked. Look at who did flunk out of the courses. Now we know white males are underrepresented in the schools anymore. But you still need to look at How many of them were flunked out? And why did they flunk out? Or why did they withdraw? So, yeah, but yeah, they're not going to look at that. But I'm just saying that required too much of an honesty. The cost of attendance, that is a major issue, and that's my personal opinion. Lies with the Democrats and Obama. When Obama took over, federalized the student loan program, and I believe his mouthpiece for that, his little worker bee, was Jordan, if I remember correctly, and not Jim Jordan either. Another guy by the name of Jordan. Um, yeah, there was some. The schools saw the government writing the checks, and they could raise their prices because government was going to write that check, and then they could also, well, hell, government writing that check. Let's get these gender studies, these race studies, these ethnic studies, and make them mandatory. If you're going to graduate from my school, you are going to have a class on women's studies. You're going to have a class on why white men are evil. You're going to have a class on how you have to respect this person and that person, and how everybody deserves your respect and groveling at them because you're a white man. Unless, of course, you're the right type of white man, You're the white man that likes to wear a dress and talk in a falsetto. You shave your face clean and put on the makeup and all that other good stuff. Then you're the kind of man they want. We will support reasonable practices to hold all institutions accountable for misrepresentations that financially harm the students and taxpayers. However, the federal government has a track record of using the secret shopper investigations to malign politically unfavored institutions with distorted figures that later result in the need for public correction. Nicholas Kent, Career Education, Colleges and Universities Chief Policy Officer, wrote in response to Tuesday's announcement. And yes, I can see, we already know that the Democrats do that. They lie about conservative colleges, the very few that are out there, the very few that don't have mass numbers of liberals pushing the liberal agenda, pushing the socialist and communist agenda. The Biden administration will disguise agents as students to catch colleges and universities that are misleading. The Enforcement Office of the Federal Student Aid will use secret shoppers to ensure higher education institutions are complying with federal laws regarding financial aid, recruitment, and enrollment, that they are not misleading or preying on students. The agents pose to students at the institutions while identifying misrepresentations in several aspects that the colleges advertise to recruit and retain, include the transferability, job rates, completion, withdrawals, graduates' future earning potential. Graduates' future earning potential. I have a problem with that. You can, because a person's earning potential has as much to do with the career they choose as to how the individual's work ethic. and his ability to do his ability and willingness to do the job. I mean, we've all known people that were super smart, super capable of doing a job. They were just too damn lazy to do it. They were just too damn lazy to go out there and do that job. They got through high school and college simply because they were smart and they could knock out the requirements in no time. But they never really worked on it. They didn't have to work at it. But when they get out into the real world, and they've got to be to work on time. Exactly, Sean. They could earn $500 an hour, or they could, end up on welfare. Um, I knew a guy back during the Bush Gore election. He called into work 2, 3 days a week during that time period from election day on for about 3 weeks. Called into work, just, I can't come in. Now, well, I knew what he was doing. He was staying at home on his computer, getting involved in discussions about the election. He was more interested in the election, and I tell that he was more involved with that than he was with his job at the time. What he should have done was ask to take vacation time, but he didn't want to do that. He just, stayed home on his computer. And he damn near lost his job over it. So, do you show up to work to do your job? That's, and honestly, what some of these kids all know is how much student debt are they going to have, and how long is it going to take them to pay it off? Secret shopping is another tool in the FSA's toolbox as we expand our oversight work to hold predatory schools accountable. Our focus, as always, is to ensure the students, borrowers, families, and taxpayers not being preyed upon to make a quick buck. So, and let's see. And of course, how are they going to, what kind of colleges are they going to pick here? Which colleges do they pick? How do they pick which ones they're going to be going after? We already know, this administration has weaponized every other segment of the government. They've, to target conservatives and people that don't agree with them. They're going to use this to their advantage. That we know it's going to happen. We know this, that it's going to be corrupt. They're not going to be fair with this. You're not going to see Wellesley investigated. You're not going to see HBUs investigated. You're not going to see, what is that, Stanford out there where Chelsea Clinton went? You're not going to see that place investigated. You're not going to see Harvard and Yale investigated. But will you see them going after some more conservative colleges? I do believe so. Let's see. They reference a 2010 government accountability report, which concluded that 15 for-profit colleges deceptive or otherwise questionable statements to GAO's undercover applicants. It was later revised after industry members and Republicans Congress filed complaints that the report exaggerated exchange between the colleges and the undercover students. That makes sense, because again, we know that the Democrats aren't above lying to get what they want. Republicans aren't above lying either. It's not just Democrats. It's just or Democrats have a tendency to get a little more they'll both. They get a little bit more, they blow that balloon up a little bit more than the Republicans do. So the lawmakers sent a letter to the GAO requesting several answers to questions about its methodology in preparing and revising the report. The Department of Education referred the Daily Caller to their own press release. All right. The agent's findings will either be evidence in an ongoing investigation or be used to open a new one against the college or university. The FSA will refer its findings to law enforcement offices or departments at the state and federal levels if necessary. They need to be at the state and federal levels, period, depending on who's funding the college. But since it's federal tax dollars going on nearly all these colleges through the government loans, remember the same loans that Biden's talking about canceling, the same student debt. All these colleges need to be on being investigated. There's no reason, and back to the student debt. The HEROES Act was not meant to be used as in a broad brush. That HEROES Act was meant for military, police, EMTs, firemen that got caught up in circumstances beyond their control where they couldn't either pay or finish going to their college courses. All right, it was supposed to be very finely targeted, and it's being abused. That was one of the things I actually had a lot of I had stuff looked up on that, and it got lost, and I didn't do the stream on it that I wanted to do, but I will bring it back up for a later date, and we'll go through that HEROES Act. Probably around the time when it gets. I want to do it before the Supreme Court makes a final ruling on it, on Clinton or on Obama's, damn, on Biden's attempt to cancel all these student debts, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of student debts. how can that not? And I mean, even so, how can that not be looked at bribery? Vote for us and we'll cancel your student debt. How can that not be considered bribery? I don't know. It just I'm just amazed how this happens sometimes. Okay, let's get back to this other stuff. All right. And to another school here. And this one here is going to be a twist that well, emotional roller. DEI official baffled after black students busted for spreading anti-black hate. Two black teenagers have been suspended from a Sacramento school after they allegedly circulated a fake dollar bill with racist imagery towards black people throughout the campus. Sac City Unified strongly condemns the use of racist language or material and has taken swift disciplinary action against two students involved. The fake money showed a racist caricature of a black man on the front, along with the website domain that contained more racist content. The fake money stated it could be redeemed for fried chicken or liquor. And I since deleted posts on Kit Carson International Academy's Facebook. Kit Carson principal Letitia Stockdale wrote, "I'm so pissed." To answer your question, two black students made these and were passing it around. One student printed it, who gave it to another, who gave it to someone else. We don't know how widespread the dissemination was on campus. We do know that more than one was handled out because the principal actually saw some on the ground. Now, I have not been able to find a picture of that dollar bill. I really wanted to find a picture of it, but I couldn't find it this morning. But I'm not surprised. The only thing that surprises me about this story is that it didn't come out and they were initially as saying that it was white students passing it around and the just show more of how the white supremacy has uh, infected the schools and the minds of the students, and how it's the racist parents causing this. The MAGA racist ultra MAGA Trump supporters did this. You know, Evidently these two kids got caught doing it before the storyline could get out there. You know, that's the only thing that surprises me about this story. All right. We've seen the black, we've seen, the uh, back at one of the college riots, protests, where the one black girl felt that there wasn't enough news reporting going on. So she went in and made a fake call reporting stuff. The one black girl that wrote some nasty stuff on a wall or on a door. The Muslim girl that reported that she had her hijab torn off. Well, she took it off. It wasn't torn off by no evil white Trump supporters. She did it to herself. That whenever we see I see these reports of super racist incidents at schools and colleges. My first go to is, I'm willing to lay money down it was performed by a black person, by a minority, by a Muslim, by a black, if it's anti-woman, if it's a sexist issue, then it was done by a woman. That's that's my that's my immediate. Oh, well, now, supposedly that it wasn't over a game, that she didn't take his game. So, but yeah, and everybody, well, that poor kid, he he's got emotional problems. He's not responsible for his outlash, for his fury, for beating that teacher half to death. Well, if he's so not responsible for his temper tantrums, what is he doing in a public school? Why isn't he in some place where he can be controlled besides a public school? Yeah, I think I remember that story there, Yosemite. I think I remember that story. But the district, let's see here. Now, what's the school's response here? It really speaks to our need as a district to do more in terms of fully educating kids about the history behind this word. All right. Now, I'm assuming they're talking about the blankly blank N word. And, that is used by nearly every black rapper, every black person out there. You know, so don't tell me that you're going to that you as a DEI person is going to be trying to convince them not to use that word when it's in. You can't see a rap song without it being in there. You can't listen to hood talk more than 10 minutes without hearing them talk use that word. All right. But anyway, we teach the kids about the history behind this word. Just try to clear up some of the misconceptions they have that lead them to use it so cavalierly. The district diversity, equity, and inclusion monitor, Mark Harris, said he's been on an emotional roller coaster over this stunt. This is the third time we've had perpetual perpetrators of a racially motivated incident identified as African Americans. It's pretty bad when our kids, for whatever reason, think that it would be popular for them to have a negative depiction of our own. You mean to tell me that all these racist incidents, that at least three of the racist incidents you've had in your schools have been fake incidences caused by the people that they were supposedly targeted? Oh my. And that's just in your own school district? Wouldn't you think maybe, just maybe, with all your guys' talk about how racist white people are, these guys here, these kids, think they can get away with it because the automatic assumption is that it's a white person that did it, and more specifically, a MAGA Trump supporter, an ultra MAGA Trump supporter? Don't you think perhaps that's why this is being done? Look at what we can do and get away with that somebody else can get in trouble for. And what kind of special privilege will we get because we're victims? We got victimized by this because it's worked so often in the past. That's your go-to position. So these kids ought to be permanently expelled from the school. That's just my opinion. They ought to be they ought to be permanently expelled. Third time in their own school district. Yeah, Yosemite, you're right about that. I have a tendency to call it DIE also. But let's see here. Where was the other story that I had here? Here we go. And this one here is that state up north, as we Buckeyes call it. Well, yeah, that's true too. That's true too. I mean, uh, that's why why 50 what over 50% of violent crime, according to FBI statistics, 13% of the population. Well, actually, around about 6.5% of the population uh, is performs 50% of the violent crime in the country. Problem, you, I know that stat is out there. I really do know that stat is out there. But I hate it when, and I don't even like, I don't like it. I don't like repeating it, and I don't like hearing other people talk about that stat either, because it is a much smaller group of people doing it than that. Because I've only known, all right, I've worked with a lot of people, I mean, in the military. All right, where I work now. All right, I'm one of two white people that work in, uh, when I did work every day at that place, I was one of two people, one of two white. Everybody else is uh, black or Indian. And the I can't picture any of these people I've ever worked with performing violent crimes. The violent crime is so localized, so to the inner cities. And what goes on in the inner cities refers to um, that it is so violent and it's so bad that people that don't live in the inner city get blamed for it simply because of the color of their skin. They get lumped in that group. So he's referring to the fact that black on black violence is higher than white on white or Hispanic on Hispanic. Again, though, Yosemite, this is in heavily uh, populated areas. Once you get outside of that urban inner city areas, those numbers equal out. It's just the heavy violence within that uh, urbanized inner city areas is so bad, so constant that it skews what goes on outside of it. Well, I know you're referring to that's what I'm saying though. If you it's like when we look at uh, the most violent cities. All right, we look at the most violent cities as being run by Democrats, even though some of those violent cities are inside of states that are have Republicans as governors or have a Republican-led uh, legislature. So what the Democrats do is say, "Well, look at the states with the highest amount of violence. They're half of them are headed up by Republicans." But then we turn around as a Republican and say, look at the individual cities where the violence is, and they're led by Democrats. So, how big of a picture do you want to draw? Okay. Um, this violence is a cancer on society. It really is. All right. And do we, and like when you're dealing with cancer, you want to go down and hit it in the cells, individual cancer cells. You don't lop off your arm because you got a skin cancer on it. You go out and extract out the individual cells. Well, when we want to look at the statistical violence here, and this is just the way I want to see it. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Macro versus the micro. Correct. And it is even all right. Now we're singing off the same sheet of music here, Yosemite. Now we're singing off the same sheet. So, all right. Michigan High School apologizes for anti Israel activists at a diversity assembly. Doesn't mention Jews or Israel. A Michigan high school principal apologized for featuring an anti Israel activist at a student led diversity assembly, but didn't mention Israel or Jewish people in the apology. Anti Israel activist and failed Democratic congressional candidate. I don't even want to try to pronounce that. Deviated from the prompts at the Bloom Hills High School Diversity Assembly Tuesday for 10th grade students and went on a rant against Israel and the Jewish people. Arif, who lost the Democratic primary for Michigan's 10th district that ultimately went to GOP Rep. John James, is known for being a co-founder of the International Solidarity Movement, an anti-Israel group that was investigated by the FBI for possible ties to the terrorists. Why was he invited to the school? School board, principal, vice principal, leadership within the school. Why was he even allowed on school property? You say this was a student led assembly? Didn't they have to get approval for who they brought to speak? And if they did have to get approval, why did you not investigate who was being invited? Ah, so this is the individual who I'm going to try Huweda Arif. All right. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not going to apologize. Tuesday night, Principal Lawrence Stroder apologized to parents, students, staff, and the community for Arif's off-script rant targeting Jewish people in Israel, noting the Diversity Assembly was a student-led event. It doesn't matter that it was student-led event. What matters is that that person was there. However, in the lengthy apology, Stroder never mentioned the Jewish people or Israel. Stop using the excuse it was a student-led diversity assembly. Stop using that as an excuse. In preparation for this assembly, our student organizers and administrators met with each speaker to discuss the intent of the assembly and the prompts. At the diversity assembly for 10th graders, one of the speakers deviated from the prompts. Without prior knowledge of any organizers, the speakers discussed the conflict in Gaza from their personal political perspective and experience. This discussion was outside the parameters of the assembly and was addressed by a high school administration immediately after the speaker left the stage. Why didn't you go up and shut her mic off? Why didn't you just go up and shut her mic off? Stroder said the school denounces any speech that targets individuals or groups based on religion, and the school is sorry for the harm that it's caused our community as a result of the speaker's message. We acknowledge that our work towards an equitable school community is always ongoing, and we still have more work to do. The student organizers was to help students understand how discrimination affects people with differing religions, races, abilities, and sexualities, and to build empathy within our community. All right. So, how much classroom time was lost in this? Time that they should have been studying mathematics, times they should have been studying sciences, the STEM fields. How much time was lost when they should have been doing other things? This is what happens. This is what I'm saying. Parents, watch what your teachers and your schools are doing to your students, to your children. Watch what they're doing. How much time was lost with these parents that they should have been in here, that the students should have been in class? And I'm not talking about the hour or 2 hours that what this assembly was, but in preparation for the assembly. There are students who were taking class time to prepare for this assembly. And I don't, and yes, I'm against this type of assembly being taught anyway. This isn't something that the schools should be teaching the kids. This, first of all, why does a public high school have a DEI or a DEI individual? Why? Why should a public high school have somebody in charge of DEI? Parents, get to your school boards, take them over, get to fire these administrators and these teachers that are bringing this kind of crap into your schools. Get rid of them. Tell them they've got a choice. Either they stick to the curriculum or they leave, one or the other. And the minute they start bringing in stuff that is not part of the curriculum, they're fired. Terminate them. Tenured or not, you get rid of them. End the conversation. Invited for diversity. The principal also shared several several quotes to convey a few of the positive messages from event speakers, but did not denote which speakers made which comments. When the Palestinian radical went off script at Bloomfield Hills High School Diversity Assembly, school administrators should have stepped in and immediately stopped the event. Yes, should have shut her mic off. Instead, they let her finish her radical anti Zionist remarks, subjecting her heavily Jewish audience of 15 and 16-year-olds to hate, and later issued an unacceptable anodyne apology to the parents that failed to mention Jews or Israel. Again, why was she even allowed on school property? Why? Why did the school officials allow her on property? School officials apologized for hosting her and said they are deeply regretful for the negative impact caused to the community by the assembly. An apology too little, too late. Too little, too late. She shouldn't have been allowed on school property. There's something else here. I guess that was it for that article. Again, parents. We've got to get parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles. We've got to understand what these schools are doing to our children. We've got to make certain that these people aren't poisoning the minds of our kids, which is what they're doing right now. I don't want my grandson to be taught that just because his skin is white and he's got blue eyes, that he's evil because maybe somewhere back in his lineage, one of his forefathers maybe had something to do with slaves. All right. Maybe somebody somewhere in the family tree did something wrong, and therefore he's responsible for the wrong done by somebody 150 years ago. Okay. That's not what we are supposed to be teaching our children. It really isn't. But that's what these schools are doing. I got to start muting my watch as well as my phone. Oh, that's cool. Gardening and archery. Gardening is something that I wish I'd taught my son more about gardening, but I didn't do it. There's there's a lot of things I wish I had taught my son when he was in school, when he was younger. But my son, there's I know exactly why I did it. It's the same reason. I mean, I was busy working, earning money to support my family. And you can't be working two jobs and being home at the same time. So that's why I'm trying to, my wife and I are trying to step in to teach our grandson. This is where, when they say it takes a village, no, I want to say it takes a family. It takes a family to raise a child, not a village. And as part of that family, I'm part of the family with her family, with my daughter-in-law's parents. And we all need to watch out for what is being taught in our schools. And all hate. There we don't we should not be teaching people to hate based on race, which is what the schools are doing. We shouldn't be teaching kids to hate based on gender, which is what the schools are doing. The only hate we should be teaching our kids is the hate of socialism, the hate of communism. Those are hate. There's not anything good in socialism. There's nothing good. But and it's only in a capitalistic society can a teacher turn around and say socialism is good. That's the only way it can happen. Because when you actually live in a socialist society, and I've talked to people who grew up in socialist societies, socialist countries, and they'll tell you from firsthand experience that living in a socialist country is not good. Yes, dear.
I'm gonna go over to Quinn's Bullion, and then I may hit a few stores, and then I'll be back.
All right. Have fun. Leave the plastic at home.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Love ya.
Love you too,
Let
sweetheart.
me come and give you a kiss.
Oh, hey, let me mute. I'm going to get a kiss. Y'all don't need to hear that. Oh yeah, Yosemite, you're right. True communism has never been tried. We will do it better. They failed. We'll do it right. Yeah, it's never going to be done right. Smoochy, smoochy. Yep, yep, yep. Hey, anytime my wife wants to give me a kiss, I'll take it. So I had to tease her the other day. Oh, anyway. Let's see. There was one other article I wanted to talk about here this morning before we get going. Before I end this here, actually, there's two other articles I wanted to do, and this one here, I just want to point out the title. I just want to point out the title on this. Okay. Ethanol industry says it will die if it cannot take farmers' land for CO2 pipeline. Will Trump support them? Trump isn't in office. Why are they bringing Trump up? Trump's got nothing to say about it anymore. Trump has nothing to do with infrastructure projects in Iowa. But they got to try to bring him in as a polarizing figure. Unfreaking believable. What's this? Oh, that's she said. Oh, she forgot to shut off the alarm before she walked out the door, and the alarm just went off. All right, no big deal. But yeah, Trump's got nothing to do with the ethanol industry in Iowa. But now they put him in the headline just as a way to try. Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. So, and for the last story of the day, detransitioning rally turns violent when Antifa shows up. Participants left afraid to speak out. A violent clash between Antifa activists and journalists at a detransition awareness day rally in Sacramento has distracted from the issue and threatens to silence people whose stories could be heard. It makes parents and detransitioners more afraid to come out to these events. I didn't really want that to be the story, and of course, that's where the story is. The Sacramento Police Department confirmed that there was multiple active investigations related to Friday's Antifa protests, which was in response to a gathering at the California State Capitol organized by Our Duty, an international nonpartisan, non-religious that advocates for detransitioners, people who have left the transgender identity. Oh no! People change their minds about whether or not they were a boy or a girl, whether or not they were in the wrong body. I thought that never happened. If you listen to the people who push 3, 4, and 5-year-olds into saying they're little boys and girls, regardless of what they sex organs they were born with. While multiple detransitioners told their stories of regret on the steps of the Capitol, protesters associated with the Antifa related group Pride was a riot. Pride was a riot. Marched down the nearby N Street near the legislative office to protest the event. Protesters hit observers with clubs, and at least 4 journalists were assaulted. I thought Antifa were the good guys, according to these people. They're the anti-fascists. I mean, that's what Antifa stands for. They're the anti-fascists. They're the good guys. One man was wounded above his right eye and taken to the hospital in an ambulance. Police told they arrested and booked a 31-year-old Joseph Conradson on multiple counts of assault with a deadly weapon and multiple counts of assault with force likely to produce great bodily injury. A woman named Judy, who described herself as a concerned parent who attended the event with a friend whose 19-year-old daughter has struggled with gender identity, said that she witnessed Antifa violence as it took place feet from where she was positioned behind police. What really bothered me is that after that happened, the guys yelling at the cops, a bystander sarcastically thanked the police for doing a great job, while a man emerged from the crowd of Antifa with a bloodied face. I'm not sure what they thought the police should have done, who noted the Antifa demonstrators never crossed the perimeter into the grounds of the Capitol and she never felt unsafe. I didn't even know this event happened. If it wasn't for this article, I would not have known that there was actually a detransitioning event had gone on. I mean, there's no, we only know of one or two detransitioners, and they're the famous one, the one or two famous ones. But they need to get more of these people out there to talk to the kids and say, hey, I made a mistake. Don't make the mistakes I made. You're not going to get the schools to invite them to come out, though, to talk to the students. You're not going to get the schools to come out and tell these kids to have kids who lobbed off their breasts, cut off their penis, to come out and tell the kids, hey, regardless of how you're feeling now, no, it's not the real thing. You're being lied to. They're not going to get called out to the schools to talk like that versus the schools that bring out the drag queens and you know, endorse and hold up these these trans men and women as heroes and people that need to be looked up to and respected. You're not going to get the schools to bring these detransitioners in. You're not going to get a detransitioner up there to talk to Biden. You're not going to get them on to, uh, good God, girl from Firestarter and 51st Dates, Drew Barrymore. You're not going to get a detransitioner on Drew Barrymore's TV show to talk about it. But even though they've got the both, they had the drag queen, not the drag queen, but that trans whatever got up there to interview Biden and then turned around and got on Drew Barrymore's show. You're not going to get these people, you're not going to get detransitioners brought up and given the same platform. But they should be. They should be. They should be getting up there. They should be allowed out there to talk to the kids. Let somebody who's been through it and knows about the mistakes get out there and talk to the kids and tell them this isn't what's going through what you're thinking today isn't going to be your thinking 5 years from now. It's good that they're reporting out, according to this article, it's good. The police did a good job. They kept Antifa away from the rally, far enough away that people didn't get hurt. An attorney and mother of a daughter who left the transgender identity Friday also said she's frustrated that Antifa dominated the headlines about the rally, which she said distracted from its goal of supporting detransitioners and raising awareness of the pain they and their families experience. She said the rally was likely the largest gathering of detransitioners ever, and many of them struggle with autism, but were emboldened to publicly share their stories as they saw others doing. One of the speakers, 18-year-old Chloe Cole, who gained national attention last month when she announced a lawsuit against Kaiser Permanente, alleging that the group pushed her into medical mutilation. Friday said her own daughter became a detransitioner after beginning to question her gender in seventh grade following a sex ed class. The girl's been asked to pick from a spectrum of genders and an array of sexual identities. When the pandemic hit, Friday recounted her daughter became isolated and fell in with the older transgender people who were grooming her on social media. Her daughter Friday said her daughter's public school in San Cloris allowed her daughter to change her name and gender without her knowledge or consent. I'm angry. That I It is not the right, the place of the school to withhold this information from a parent. When these kind of issues arise in school, the parent should be immediately notified. It should not be hidden from the school, from the parent. But the schools do it. When she found out, Friday said she faced pushback from the school when she complained and that Child Protective Services were called on her after she told the school to go screw themselves. It's intimidation. I pulled her from that public school. That took almost a year and a half to pull her out of the transition cult. That's how it happens. It happens to liberals. It happens to good parents. It can happen to anybody. You think you're the best parent on the planet? It doesn't matter. Friday, who was a Democrat for 37 years before voting Republican for the first time in 2022, said the transgender ideology as it relates to minors threatens to destroy the Democratic Party. She said families at the rally, some of who waved signs were Democrats for detransition, were majority Democrats. My party has completely abandoned us. It's completely abandoned the family and will never recover from this. The thing people don't understand is this doesn't just affect the child, it affects the entire family. Affected my son, my relationship with my husband, is destroyer of everything it touches. It touches everything. Liberalism destroys everything. Hey, Parody Bear. Liberalism is what destroys everything. There's no excuse for this. The schools are pushing this transitional ideology onto the kids. And it's hurting the kids and it's killing the families. And the Democrats love it when it destroys the family. The Democrats don't like a strong family unit. They don't. They want the state to raise your children. They want everybody, 1984, everyone belongs to the state. Because when there's a strong family unit, that teaches independence. That's teaching that you're not reliant on the government. And that's not what the Democrat Party wants. The Democrat Party wants you to be reliant on the federal government. They don't want you to rely on the local government. They don't want you to rely on your state government. They want you to rely on the federal government. I want people to wake up to this. And it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame I'm not a good enough speaker. It's a shame I'm not a good enough advocate for this kind of stuff. My wife was surprised I've got 71 people come out and listen to me. And she's saying, "Oh, that's a lot of people." And I'm saying, "No, that's not a lot of people." But every I like every one of the people that do come out and listen to me because they're all good people, even the ones that disagree with me. Because the ones that disagree with me, they're a good person because they're at least coming out and listening to what I got to say. Thank you, Bear. You're exactly right. But anyway, maybe we can get these detransitioners out there and get them speaking and get them out there talking about what's going on. Much like it takes an alcoholic to talk about alcoholism because they understand it in a way that nobody else does. Because some people won't respect you, won't listen to you unless you've experienced what they've experienced. And in a way, sometimes I can agree with that. But we need the first step is get this out of our schools. Get DEI out of our schools. Get it out. Get it out of our schools entirely. Stop teaching it. Stop holding rallies for it. Stop doing it, period. Teach our kids that they learn, they advance based upon their merit, based upon what they do as an individual. Neil, I grew up with alcoholics. And when people who had never been had never been in an alcoholic come and tried to talk to them. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. The denial. But when another person who was an alcoholic came to talk to them, they could shut down that argument that they didn't know what they were talking about because they had that experience. And sometimes that's what it takes because it's a denial factor in there. There's that you don't know, no, you don't know how I feel. Yes, I do know how you feel because I lived it. And a person who's never been in that position can't say that they've lived it. Okay. So we need to get these detransitioners out there to stop this tidal wave that's going on in our country right now. We've got to get them out there speaking. We've got to get them out there doing this, reaching out to the other children. But the first thing we got to do is stop teaching it and endorsing it in our schools. That's the first thing we have to do. Because as long as the schools are supporting it, as long as the schools are endorsing it, as long as the schools are helping the children to do it by allowing them to change clothes and calling them different names and keeping it a secret from mom and dad, then it's a lost cause. I'm waiting for the first lawsuit by a parent. I'm waiting for a lawsuit because until there's a couple of lawsuits, nothing's going to change. So, and when I say lawsuit, I'm not talking about a lawsuit against the school, just the school district. I'm talking a lawsuit naming teachers by name, suing these teachers as individuals. And perhaps we need to make it part of a criminal code. Make it a crime for teachers to be doing this. An actual crime to where they go to jail. Spend 2 years in jail for doing it to a child. Maybe that's another step that needs to be done. But we've got to stop this crap in our schools. So we're coming up on the 2 hour mark. I want to thank you guys for coming out here and listening to me today. These schools, they're out of hand. They really are getting out of hand. And we've got to find a way of getting them reined back in. I mean, I can remember when I went to school. Again, I graduated in 1978. Holes in your jeans were not allowed. Girls were just then being allowed to wear blue jeans to school. Until then, they could only wear slacks if it was part of a pant, the coordinated pantsuit type thing, or they were the slacks that, dress slacks. They couldn't wear blue jeans to school. Even if they were members of the FAA, they weren't allowed to wear blue jeans. If they had stuff going on after school, they brought in a pair of jeans to change into. Boys' hair, that big bone at the base of your neck, they would run their finger down the back of your uh, neck, and if your hair was still under their finger when it hit that bone, you got sent home for needing a haircut. Sideburns couldn't come below the opening in your ear. The hair couldn't touch your ear, that little bump there in the middle of your ear. Your hair couldn't be so long as to touch that if it came over your ears. If you raised your arms over your head, both arms straight up, no midriff could be seen whatsoever. No skin. You got the teachers' unions, that works. But that was the kind of dress code that we had. But half the boys and about a third of the girls, we all carried buck one tens or 410s, 810s, buck folding knives on our belts. During the hunting season, most of us, the kids that had vehicles, had a shotgun or a rifle in their back of their in their vehicle somewhere because they went hunting either before school or after school. We never had shootings or stabbings on our school property, even though there are plenty of weapons around to do it with. So, but then we didn't have the lax, the school board, the school teachers were carefully monitored as to what and how they taught. There were American flags in the classrooms. We didn't have socialist flags. We didn't have Black Panther flags. We didn't have communist flags in our schools. Things were, you know, parents could come in anytime. They didn't have to get buzzed in and only allowed to go to the office. Parents could come in and sit down and monitor the classroom anytime they wanted to. That doesn't happen today. So we need, a whole lot has changed since I graduated high school. And most of the changes I'm going to have to say have proven not to be for the better. But y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Tomorrow's Friday fun day. Relax. No politics allowed for at least the first 2 hours. Just sit down and shoot the breeze. Have a nice, easy day before going into the weekend. All right? We'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one. And as always, be with the ones that you love and love the ones that you're with. And have a good day.